All right, hi boys and girls. We're going to do an exercise regarding objections. I'm sure you've seen some movies involving the law and courtroom scenes and lawyers saying, "Objection, I object. Your Honor, objection." You've probably heard those kind of movies. You've seen those. Well, in our mock trial that you're going to put together with your scripts, you don't have to worry about doing objections for the trial. But we want you to learn about them, and they're kind of fun to practice and see what they are. It gets you thinking, okay? So you're going to have in your materials a handout that talks about the different objections. If a judge sustains an objection, the judge says, "I sustain that objection." That means the judge agrees with the objection. An attorney has said, "I object, Your Honor." Judge says, "I agree. I agree with you. I sustain your objection." That's a good objection. If the judge says overruled, "I overrule that objection" to the lawyer, then that means the judge does not agree with the lawyer, does not agree with the objection. So the lawyer says, "Objection, Your Honor." Judge says overruled. That means no, I don't agree with you. Okay? That means a witness can answer that particular question. When do these objections come up? Well, it's in a trial or another hearing where a witness is on the witness stand and they're testifying. Or a lawyer asks a question and the witness hasn't answered yet, and the lawyer doesn't want the witness to answer the question because it's not something that should be in front of the jurors as evidence. It shouldn't be part of the trial. And we're going to do that exercise in a minute. But let's tell you which objections we're going to actually worry about. There's a lot of objections, something like, I think, 15 objections that could really be made in a real trial. We're only going to focus on 3 of them for this exercise. I think that's enough. One is relevance. Well, if you say objection, relevance, or you say objection, it's irrelevant. That means who cares about that evidence? It doesn't have anything to do with our case. That shouldn't be here. It's just some other issue that we shouldn't be dealing with right now. So it's not important to the trial. Another objection is the witness has no personal knowledge. Objection, no personal knowledge, Judge. How does this witness know? This witness doesn't have that information. For example, if a lawyer asks somebody who's not an expert to give an expert opinion, like a medical opinion. Well, a regular witness who's not a doctor can't do that. So objection, no personal knowledge, would be one of the objections that could be made. Objection, compound. Objection, Your Honor, that question is compound. That means there's more than one question being asked at a time. For example, how old are you and where do you live? Well, what question does the lawyer want you to answer? It's 2 separate questions, and you'll have 2 separate answers, or you might. And it's not fair to make the witness answer 2 questions with just one answer. So that's why a lawyer might say, "Objection, Your Honor, compound. There's too many questions being asked at once. It's more than one question." Okay? So now you're ready for an exercise. We're going to have another group of lawyers introduce themselves and then do this exercise on objections with you. So you're going to play attorneys this time. And if this lawyer up here asks this question, what is your objection as the other lawyer in the courtroom? You want the judge to not allow this question. Why? Okay? All right, have fun.
All right, so this is the exercise regarding objections. And so you will have questions in front of you as well. So I'm going to read them, and then you tell me whether the questions are fair or whether they're objectionable. The first question the attorney will ask the third pig is, how old is Mother Pig? What do you think? I would say that that would garner an objection of relevance. I don't know that the Mother Pig's age is relevant to this case. Hopefully you got that right. The next question is, what did the first little pig use to build his house? Is that objectionable? I think not. I think it's quite relevant to the case what was used to build the house. So there would be no objection, or if someone objected, the judge would overrule that objection. The third question, when did the wolf arrive and what did he say? Is that objectionable? While it appears that these questions are relevant to the case, they are asked together, and they would fall into the objection of compound question because two questions were asked together. If the attorney split up the questions, they would be proper. The fourth question, where is Porky Pig and where do you guys normally hang out? What do you think? This question has a couple of problems. Number one, it's also a compound question like the previous one, so that would be objectionable. At the same time, the questions have no relevance. They are not important to this trial. Porky Pig is not even in the story. So I hope you guys got that one right. The fifth question, where did the wolf learn to blow down houses? What do you think? While that question seems like it's very relevant, I don't know that the third pig would know. So there might be an objection of no personal knowledge for that question. That question might more properly be directed to another witness. Thanks.
So I'm going to cover some more objections with you. Let's go to number 6. Now remember, I'm an attorney and I've got that third surviving pig on the witness stand, and I'm the attorney asking the surviving pig this question. What kind of lung capacity do you need to blow down a twig house? What kind of lung capacity? Do you think the third surviving pig would have any knowledge about what kind of lung capacity it would take down to blow down a twig house? Maybe he doesn't have personal knowledge. That would probably be the most appropriate objection. You might need someone called an expert witness to answer that kind of a question. Somebody who has expert knowledge about lung capacity and what it would take. What about number 7? Again, this is to the third surviving pig. I'm the attorney asking the question. Are you wearing Bacon by Calvin Klein perfume? It smells like bacon. Do you think that that's an appropriate, well, I don't even know if it's an appropriate question, but do you think it's objectionable? Anyone? I'm seeing a lot of nods. I would say it's objectionable. Who cares? It's really not important to our murder trial, right? What kind of perfume this pig's wearing. How about number 8? Surviving pig. Are you related to Miss Piggy? And what is Kermit the Frog like? I'm thinking maybe... This is pretty objectionable. I don't think it's important. I don't see how that's relevant. And then also with the and there in the middle, it looks like there's 2 questions there. So I would also say that's a compound question. And I would object to that if I was the other attorney. Okay. What color was the wolf's stylish jacket? What do you think, group? Anyone out there? Any shout outs? I don't know if that's relevant, but it could be. I mean, because there could be a description of the wolf at the scene committing the crime. And, if the third pig viewed and saw the wolf, but it's what color was the wolf's style of the jacket he was wearing while he blew down the house? So I would have to object on that question. Let's go to the 10th question. Little third surviving pig, do you love your pig brothers? Did you love your pig brothers? If I was the other attorney, I would just probably object on the basis of relevance on that one. How does that matter to the real facts of this case, which is whether or not this wolf committed those murders? Really doesn't matter. Thank you. Okay, so we're going to have someone else come up and do some more questions with you.
All right, boys and girls, good afternoon, and I'm Judge Eagle. I saw you in a previous lesson. I'm going to do the last 5 questions to the little pig, and we'll talk again about objections. So I think you're getting the hang of it. Just think about which of those 3 objections might apply to these questions. Question number 11 is to the third pig, of course. Is Babe the pig really your cousin? Well, what's your first reaction to that, knowing the story? Who's Babe? And of course, that would make you think, well, if we don't know Babe from the story, probably not a relevant question. Question number 12. What did you say when the wolf arrived? Any thoughts about objections? Is it compound? Nope, we know it's not compound. Does the third little pig have personal knowledge of when the wolf arrived? Could be. And is it relevant? That's a little bit dependent on what questions have been asked before and what the person who's questioning the little pig really wants to get at. So possibly a relevance objection, but it also might be relevant just depending on the cross-examination and the facts that we're going after. Question 13. How long did it take the first pig to build his house? Objections? Relevance. What difference would it make? How long it took to build the house. The house was built, and we know it got blown down. So that, I think, is a good objection. That's not a really relevant question. Question number 14. How scared of the wolf were you, and why did you build your house with bricks? All right. Objection, compound. Do you think that's a compound objection? Well, we know from Miss Paula when she talked about compound questions that word "and" is really important, and it might, in fact, it probably indicates that two questions are being asked. So that is the definition of a compound question. It could definitely be objected to on that grounds. There's another part of the question, how scared of the wolf were you? Is that compound? No. Well, it's part of a compound question. Personal knowledge? Sure, the pig's going to have personal knowledge of that. But is it relevant? It might be, it might not be, possibly not. So that's a possible objection. And finally, question number 15, how long did it take you to build your house? Objection? That's also going to be a relevance question. That's just like the question number 13, how long did it take the first pig to build his house? And as we know, the house was built, it got blown down. The relevance of how long it took isn't something we need to have for the trial. Thank you, boys and girls.
Okay, so now we're going to move on to questions for the wolf. And so the lawyer may ask the wolf some questions, and we're going to go through some of the same exercise again and see whether the questions are objectionable. The first question is, Mr. Wolf, do you have a wolfmobile like Batman? Well, I kind of want to know. However, I don't really think it's relevant whether the wolf had a wolfmobile. Now, maybe some testimony would have come out saying that he arrived in a wolfmobile, and I don't remember all the facts from the case, but if there is, then that might be relevant. Next question to the wolf is, tell us about third pig and Porky's friendship. The third pig, we just heard questions that he answered questions, but what about his relationship and friendship with Porky? Is it relevant? I would say not. And so I would object to that question, and most likely a judge would sustain that objection. Third question to the wolf. Did you graduate from Lone Wolf Academy? Very good question. Where did you go to school, right? What do you guys say? Well, we have these objections here. I would say this is a relevant question. Where Mr. Wolf went to school. So probably a proper question. Number 4. How long did it take you to go from the first little pig's house to the second little pig's house? And what did you do when you arrived? What do you think? Again, while these questions may seem relevant, and they might be, they are compound. Number 3, more than one question is being asked at a time. Question number 5, how many chairs did the first little pig have in his house? Is that question proper? Well, it might be relevant, but as we look in our list, we see number 2, there's an objection of no personal knowledge. Perhaps that question is more properly directed to who has been in the first little pig's house and not someone who hasn't been. And so that might be a proper objection. So those are the first 5 questions directed to Mr. Wolf.
Thank you, Clarence. I'm going to do numbers 6 through 10. And again, I'm the attorney, and I'm pretending to question the wolf who's on the stand, the defendant who's actually on the stand, testifying in his own defense, which he doesn't have to do, but in your case, he's doing it. So I'm going to ask Wolf, what kinds of food do you eat, and how often do you eat on average? Well, there's the and, so immediately you know that's a compound question. I would also argue it's relevant, especially in the facts of the case that you're going to be getting. When you get your scripts and you read your scripts, that's a relevant point. It matters because some of the evidence is what the wolf had for lunch that day. Number 7, I'm asking the wolf, who was second little pig's best friend? Well, I don't know. First of all, how's that relevant to the case, which is whether or not this wolf committed the murders of the 2 pigs? And also, how would the wolf know? He's not going to know. He might not know. He might not even know. He may know who they are. He may be in their group of friends or not. So he may not have personal knowledge of that. Number 8, again to the wolf. How much straw did first little pig use on his house? Well, again, this might not be something that he has any personal knowledge about. He may or may not, probably doesn't under the facts of your case, and it may or may not be relevant. So that's kind of one of those questions where it's sort of on the fence, and it depends really on the facts of the case. Number 9, I'm asking the wolf, what's the best restaurant in Pigville? Well, I don't know. Looking at these 3, I would just say relevance on this one. And number 10, I'm asking the wolf, what's your favorite color? Maybe as the attorney I'm interested, but it really doesn't matter to the case, so that's not relevant. Okay, Judge Eagle is going to do the last 5 questions with you.
So now we're going to start with question number 11. This is me questioning the wolf. And remember, we're looking to see if these questions have any objections that the other attorney might make. Number 11, Mr. Wolf, have you ever eaten bacon? Think about our story. Think about what Mr. Wolf is accused of, which is blowing down the houses and eating the pigs. A question, have you ever eaten bacon, to the defendant under these facts? Is it compound? Nope. Would he have personal knowledge about whether he had ever eaten bacon? Yes, he certainly would. So that's not an objection. What about relevance? Is that a question that we would want to know from the defendant in this situation who's accused of eating two of the little pigs? Absolutely. Eating bacon might very well be relevant. I don't think any of these 3 objections probably apply to this question. What about this question to Mr. Wolf? Have you ever blown anything down? It's not compound. He would know if he had, so it's not an objection to personal knowledge. Again, just like the last question, he's accused of blowing down the houses. So I think that's a fair question. There's not any good objection to that question, and so any judge would let that question be asked. Question number 13. What kind of music did the second little pig like? Anytime you get a question where your first reaction to it is, what? That might be a question where relevance is a problem, and there might be objection to relevance to that. I don't know what difference it would make if the second little pig liked opera or liked jazz. So there would be a relevance objection to that. Also, there might be an objection to that because how would the wolf know? There might be a personal knowledge objection to that question because we're not really sure how Mr. Wolf would know such a thing. Question number 14. Why did you blow down the little pig's house, and what did you do after that? Relevance? Is there a relevance objection? No, I think we would want to know the answer to that question. Personal knowledge? Sure, the wolf would have personal knowledge of those things, but what did we talk about when there was the word and in that question? It's 2 different questions. We might very well need to know the answers to both of those questions, but the question could be objected to because it's 2 questions, not 1. And finally, we get to question number 15. Did you like the movie Teen Wolf, and was it realistic? Well, I guess Mr. Wolf would have personal knowledge of that, but definitely it's a compound question, as we've discussed earlier. And it also has that problem. What does that have to do with our case? All right. Thank you, boys and girls.